Hello everyone, I'm Kibin Alleyne and today is Tuesday, November 12th. You are now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. George Williams is a versatile media expert with a wealth of experience in shooting interview and documentary videos. Proficient in video, lighting, audio, and interviewing subjects, George founded Digitoral Media Productions, committing to deliver high-quality productions that leave a lasting impact. Recently, he was a recipient of the SBS NYC Funds Finder program. George Williams now joins us in studio to share more details. George, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more about Digitoral Media Productions?
So Digital Media Productions is a combination of two kind of areas. One, I grew up with a IT background. Secondly, I've also lived in the South Bronx for all of my life, and I looked and saw how the South Bronx was changing, and there were so many neighborhoods and stories that were being told, and I wanted to capture some of these stories. Plus, at the same time, what began to happen was social media began to, evolve, and there were a lot of positive and also negative things that were happening in social media, and I wanted to create positive stories. So hence, digital and oral together, digital media, and there you have it.
Wow. Now, can you just tell us a little bit more about what the organization provides and gives to those that, encounter?
So we really specialize in interviewing and mini docs and now also podcasts. We do that because that's the idea of really capturing people's stories and ideas and things like music and things like history of the Bronx and neighborhoods that are changing. And so we really specialize in those three, but we'll also do photography and events when, the need calls for that.
Now, something you kind of mentioned the past and how the Bronx was changing. And when I look at society and how it's changing, so many of us now kind of have access or a little bit more access to these tools so that we can kind of share our own stories, just talk about the things that we want to talk about. But I understand things weren't always like that, not even 10 years ago. So I'm curious to know what helped you get started and what inspired you to go, especially during a time where, just resources in media weren't always as available.
Yeah, that's true. Well, thinking back, again, I started as an IT tech, and a lot of us were looking at the IT space and saying, okay, this is great, that's great. A lot of us worked in what we call messaging technology. So when you look at things like AOL, email system of the past, a lot of us worked on those systems. And when YouTube came about, we all looked at that as the prime and messaging system where you could take a little piece of a video and actually shoot it around the world. And we knew that was going to be something big. So a lot of us invested in our time into learning about YouTube, and we just knew it would take off. And now you have YouTube, you have Netflix. So back then, yeah, cameras were very expensive, and you purchased what you could afford, or what you did was you worked with an organization such as BronxNet to gain access to the cameras. And we did it until we could do better.
That's amazing. Now, what's also amazing that you were recently awarded a fund through the NYC Department of Small Business Services. Can you tell me a little bit more about that accomplishment?
So that's actually in Small Business Services Funds Finder. And to really describe it, imagine, you were looking for a job and, you could run around and go anywhere and say, okay, are you guys hiring? Are you guys hiring? But then there's technology such as Indeed, and you can put your information in Indeed and your resume, and the actual people who are looking to hire actually come to you. Well, that's the same thing as Fund Finder. You put your business information in Fund Finder, and the actual funders now can get an indication that your company is looking for funds, and they will actually reach out to you with a form and an application. You'll fill that out, and you'll give them all the information you need to actually qualify for funding. So you no longer have to run around to Bank A, Bank B, bank C, and so forth like that. And we were able to do it. We had it all our ducks in a row, all our documentation set up, and it took a while, but it was well worth it.
Now, can you explain, what this could mean for a lot of organizations that are running in the Bronx? A lot of people have amazing ideas, but they don't always have the funds to help kind of go forward with those ideas. So, can you explain how helpful this was, and how this could be, a life-saving organization or a
Right.
life-saving tool for an organization?
So it's really important to have your information, set up so you can be fundable. But the beauty of it is a lot of us, we have credit cards and we can go out and use our credit cards for, 29.99%. But to another thing about the Fund Finder is that they actually give you a rate of between 8 and let's say 10%. So that is actually life changing when it comes to a small business that is watching every dollar. You're now not only do you get an affordable loan, but you also get an affordable loan at a ridiculous rate where you couldn't otherwise be able to afford it using a credit card.
Right. Now, I want to take a moment to discuss, with all of the funding that you have and the resources, what you use those resources for, and is to kind of amplify the voices of people in the Bronx. Can you just explain? We all know that the Bronx has kind
Yes.
of this reputation, and people have their preconceived ideas about the Bronx. Why was it so important for you to kind of step in there and kind of amplify the voices that aren't usually heard?
So I was watching the Bronx change where the neighborhoods that I was accustomed to were literally changing before our eyes. People were moving out. Things were getting a little expensive, and people were moving either down south, Texas, out west. And there was one particular neighborhood that I saw, and I just said, it'd be great to document this neighborhood. Um, I think the most important thing that I saw was let's capture things before they move so we can kind of preserve that history.
Well, that's amazing. And then, where we are today, things are rapidly changing in the
Right,
Bronx. The
right.
community is often changing. How do you hope, what you've recorded before kind of shows, about the past of the Bronx and where we're heading towards our future?
Well, the plan is to create enough content so th- there could be a Bronx archive in the future. I know the Bronx has already created a hip hop museum, so perhaps some of the content can be used there in for future generations or students to actually see what the Bronx was like or hear what the Bronx was like, and the people who came before them, what did they do? How did they enjoy the Bronx?
Now, I love that you mentioned hip hop because one, you can't talk about the Bronx history without talking about
Right.
hip hop. But I understand that one of your projects traces hip hop history via the Lambert houses in the West Farms neighborhood. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Okay, so this is a very interesting project. It came about, I was shooting a party. I met a gentleman named Hercules Bradley. He said, "Hey, I have a project," and just hired me to shoot some footage. At the time, I had older cameras, and he introduced me to the project where it's called the Lambert House documentary, where if many of us go to the Bronx Zoo and there's several entrances, but one of the entrances towards the south of the Bronx Zoo, in order to get to it, you pass what we call Lambert houses, and there are so many uh, hip hop historians and founders that have grew up in that development. And it just so happens he wanted to do this project because Lambert is actually being torn down bit by bit and replaced by 18-story apartment buildings. And he thought it would be a great idea before it was all gone um, to do two things: record the changes as he takes footage of the buildings, and also record the people who lived in the buildings and what the building meant to them and what they were doing at the time that they lived in the building. And it is just phenomenal.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that because I didn't even know that was happening in the Bronx. So thank you for sharing that. I also want to take a moment to highlight, you know, your contribution or, just being a part of the BronxNet team and family. I understand that you've worked with Gary Axelbank, you've taken classes. Can you talk a little bit more about your experience, with BronxNet and how it's helped you in any way?
Well, it's been great. I originally became certified with BronxNet probably around 2015, and I recently recertified. But when you approach media, media is the unknown. Nobody, you really don't know, what the components are and so forth like that, and what it takes to actually successfully create a production. So through the BronxNet certification, we were able to learn about all of these lights that you see here, all the TVs, the control rooms, every aspect of media in order to successfully create a production. So without that, I have no doubt, unless of course I went to college for it, which, fortunately I did it, unless I did, I would not know. So, and the nice thing about it is it is affordable. So anyone can come and get a certification in media production here at BronxNet.
And I love that you mentioned that, whatever path you take, there's an option for you to learn about this because
Right.
our world is changing. We are kind of being delved further into the world of media. So I think that's amazing. And, with that, if you could give any advice to people who are looking to start their own journey into the world of media production, what would it be?
So my advice would be start now. Don't wait. Don't go through analysis paralysis and kind of analyze and don't do anything. Start now. What you will create, it may not be ideal where you say, oh, I love it, but it will get better. And it gets better after time after time. And it takes a while. It takes a while to really, learn what good media is because it's a psychological thing also. People expect a certain type of media when they see it, a certain type of professionalism, and you will develop it in time.
Well, with that, I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing a little bit more about your expertise. And, in the beginning, I said how amazing you were.
Thank you.
But I love that you talked about that there were things that you didn't know and that you had to learn about it because especially here at BronxNet, what we're really advocate for is the education and learning more about media. So with that, again, I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing a little bit more about your journey and your organization.
Thank you very much.
To learn more about the work Digitoral Media Production does, please go to their website at digitoralmedia.com. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Open right after this.